So this True Self session is all about connecting with our own inner light, and this being the solstice here, the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere, it has a more significant meaning than, let's say, just a new moon meditation or any regular meditation. So we are at a point here, and this is part of, or was part of your instructions, also the latest article that I posted on my website, of a new beginning. And I want you guys to understand that this is big, okay? This is not just like, oh, you know, like a new job or, you know, new relationship. No, this is a new beginning for all of us. And this affects the northern and the southern hemisphere likewise. So there's no difference where you're at on this planet. So regardless of the planetary cycles that we are in, yeah, so the southern hemisphere has the summer solstice, which also symbolizes a shift change, but into a different direction. We are still all going or getting pulled into the same new beginning. Yeah. So in this overall phase, I'll talk a little bit more about this in the forecast for 23 till 26, is a transitory, it's a transition phase, okay, that will last another 2.5 years. But there are some things that want to be let go of now. And when we did the session, so as we are doing the remote energy work with your guys' energies, we are connecting with another. We are, we as in the energy healers that have volunteered to hold the field and to read you guys' energies. Yeah, so we discuss these energies that we can identify in the field, and then I do a reading on each and every one of you individually. So please take the opportunity to ask questions about what it was perhaps that you felt. So when you describe to me how, you know, you experienced this 60-minute connecting with your true self, I might be able to give you a little bit of guidance, because I am, if you will, talking to your true self during this session. But we typically start out with just reflecting on the overall energetic quality of our time and what this session brought forward for all of us, yeah, as a sort of mini collective here of awakened souls that are coming together to really dedicate a moment in time to this deeper inner connection. And if you have been following my daily empowerment messages, by the way, it's not too late. Yeah, sign up for them. They were like 5-minute videos every day with a little write-up, and you can look at the archive, how it builds. It's a spiritual initiation process that I go through with you guys every day, yeah, for the month of December. So today I'm posting the empowerment for the 20th and 21st, and then we're gonna walk through these last days of the year together. Yeah, there I'm explaining this in a more spiritual way, yeah, what it actually means to connect with our light and why this is significant right now. So we could all see this here in this session. Some of you are here. Julianne, do you mind coming on with your microphone at least, so that we can have a bit of a dialogue, which always makes it a little more interesting for everybody. We picked up on this right away, right? We picked up on this new beginning energy, yeah, that is coming in various ways for us personally. So for some of us, it means to let go of a perspective and a way of seeing yourself, a way of seeing the world. For some of you, it comes in with actually letting go of something, maybe letting go of a relationship, letting go of a job or a house or a place that you call home. And for some of us, it's more the understanding that, you know, that which we have aligned ourselves to, where we want to go to, requires us to lighten the burden, to, you know, not carry all these things around with us. Yeah, so speaking out of my own experience here, yeah, I have a tendency to wanting to hang on to old things like items and stuff like that, not in a hoarding way, but I like, you know, assigning memories to things. And sometimes, you know, when you get into this clearing mode, you realize that you carry all this in you. You don't actually need this outer symbol or this outer, you know, this extra. Yeah, you don't have to be responsible for it. And so for many of you guys, this actually meant something very important here. Namely, what came up was this fear of letting others behind when you move forward, when you grow. Can anybody relate to that? This fear of losing friends or losing friendships or relationships or connection with family or traditions or something like that, where there's an unconscious fear of moving forward because we feel that either we inflict pain to others or it means for us to sacrifice something. Anybody had something along those lines here during the session? That's a little bit the deeper aspect of this letting go. Many of you were very receptive to the letting go aspect and to wanting to let the new in. But there's
Jona?
one. Yes.
Can you
Yeah,
hear me
no, go
okay?
ahead. Yes, I hear you, Janet.
Thank
Yes.
you. It's interesting you say this because I don't consciously feel like I have any problem letting things go because so many things have gone from me that it doesn't really resonate. But at the same time, I've been noting in myself like, what's that block? I would notice myself like wanting to force it out, and I'm like, of course that's not going to work. So I went through all sorts of things to just try to relax, which eventually I did by the end. But this is interesting what you're saying. I don't consciously feel like I'm afraid to let go of traditions and stuff because I feel like that process has already happened consciously. But there is like an unknown. I'm like, what is this? What is it? What's in the way? And then I think I fell asleep.
Yeah, so we all have this letting go process in different ways and on different levels. Yeah, so those of us who are a little older, I would say, have already gone through a bunch of rounds of that. So the part of the significance of the solstice is that it really ends or it marks the end of a 20-year cycle. Okay, so many of us have already gone through, you know, like the heavy lifting, if you will, but there can be some unconscious things, and this is something that has to do with responsibility. Yeah, so you know, we may have already let go of all the outer stuff. Okay, now it's about letting go. For those of us who have done the heavy lifting already, Janet, and I know you have, it's about letting go of feeling responsible for others, because that is a huge burden that someone can carry with them. And for those of us, and that's many among us here, who are energetically sensitive, who are empathic, all right, this the sense of feeling responsible for maybe having caused something to others, or you know, like you know, this can come in form of guilt and regrets and stuff like that sometimes, but it can also come in form of self beat up. Yeah, that there is a level of self beat up that we do because we think that in the process of this heavy lifting, you know, the price was very high, and so we try to make good. And there's a conflict there. It's a duality. On one hand, we want to be more responsible. We want to, you know, be more, sort of see more, you know, and integrate more with others. But on the other hand, we haven't really fully figured out that others are sovereign soul selves themselves, that others have to make these choices as well, and that everything that has to do with responsibility always also applies to others. And obviously there's qualitative differences when it comes to like the responsibility that we feel, let's say, toward our children, or many of you have elderly parents. These are karmic family ties, and we kind of have to find our place in that. And it's not easy because there's so many ethical things, yeah, and societal things that still work, on us, your karmic ties, if you will, your karmic collective ties. But when it comes to people in our life that maybe that have supported us or that are trying to support us, we need to understand that the true responsibility, which is sort of the higher expression of stepping into our own sovereignty, also means to release others into their own self-responsibility. Janet, that is what that means for you. What came in for you very strongly during this session was something that it seems unrelated, but those of you who work with me here in these ongoing sessions, either through the training club or the hardware program, may know how this is linked. What came in for you is inner child work. So there is a part in you, okay, and this is most likely the very part that you just mentioned, that is unconscious to you, that works against, let's say, your better knowing or your higher intentions. And when it comes to responsibility, it's very important to understand the connection, because our inner child that links us back to a time in our life when we were not really responsible for stuff, but where we were also powerless to make changes. If there are things that we've experienced that debilitated us or that created a lot of trauma for us, then it is quite possible that when we are just ready to make the step forward, that we can get pulled back into the unconscious aspect of our inner child that sounds like I'm powerless. There's nothing I can do. And in your case, that needs to be overcome. Now, there needs to be an integration process with your inner child, yeah, where you step into this, wiser, more mature you. And I can't explain to you how the inner child process works, but it's fundamentally like a reparenting, where you start parenting your own inner child to the best abilities and according to your current level of consciousness. And that then helps to integrate this. That then helps to to unify these aspects that are contradictory in us.
Yeah, just this last month, actually, of course, because this was coming up, I noticed, I always felt that I had I'm not always, but recently, okay, inner child, you look happy and everything. And then it hit me. I was like, well, you know what? I spent a lot of my time as a child feeling like I was mothering my mother a lot. And I realized that with that, then now it seems like I need to take care of things in a different way. So that is as far as I got with it, but it sounds similar, like, okay, now somehow I'm meant to take responsibility and take it off the shoulders of my inner child, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and really taking full responsibility for yourself, because that was the part that came short in the process. So you share this with quite a few people, that were pushed into this place where they were made responsible for others, either mother or sister, brother, or something like that, at a stage where they were supposed to develop their own identity, yeah, and their own sort of feeling for themselves and what their tasks are. And when we, and this is psychology, when we kind of miss out on certain developmental stages at certain times, then what happens later in life is that there is a sort of a vacuum there. It's almost like you have to go back to second grade and learn second grade math, okay, to be able to deal with, you know, calculus or something like that later on in life. Okay, and there is nothing bad about it. It's just really, you know, there's no judgment needed. It really is about recognizing that there were things that were disrupted or inhibited at a certain time, where that was sort of the age appropriate age where that was supposed to happen. This can go as far as people actually having to do like certain types of therapy where they have to crawl, where they have to, you know, as a physical therapy, have to crawl, yeah, because there was something that didn't happen, let's say when they were like 9 months, 12 months old. So that's what psychology teaches us. Okay, seen from an energetic perspective, you know, we can see other layers of that, because we can see, you know, karmic aspects of that. Yeah, and so, you know, you were forced to take care of someone who was actually supposed to be your caretaker. And from an energetic and spiritual perspective, that's very significant, because what this means is that you missed out on that experience. You missed out on that, you know, female caretaker role model. And that can have quite a big effect karmically in our life, because if you don't really know how to fill this up, you may feel, say, a motherly instinct toward, you know, other people, or, you know, your own children for that matter. But there is no framework for, you know, what is good, what is beautiful, what is loving. Do you know what I mean? And that's then something that can, and often does, play out in our relationships, where we then try to find something else to be responsible for. And this can lead to people feeling responsible for literally everything and everybody, all the way to feeling responsible for the weather, or for, you know, like all kinds of misfortunes that happen in this world, yeah, to taking on the pain of the collective, the pain of the world. Yeah, this is something that you can only really see in that sort of spiritual and energetic context. Yeah, how far-reaching that is. So the main message being, though, Janet, that and not just for you, but for everybody, that this here is a natural, like an outer shift change occurring. It is a new world that we will find ourselves in here, and we will see this unfold, like literally, I mean, in front of us. Yeah. So the end of 23, I said something similar at the beginning of 22. The world will be different. Yeah, and this will start right off the bat, and we will feel this. And the part here that actually made me feel quite confident is that there is something like, Julian, are you here still? There's something like,
I am, and I just love it, Jona. It's that feeling of sorry.
Yeah,
the feeling,
like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah,
yeah.
it's very subtle, and it was in all of you guys. Yeah, this like sort of, and I want to say that the onset of, you know, feeling like you're over the hump. Some of you are really, really ready for some new things, and some of you are still resisting. Yeah, so there's a lot of quotes and writings that I do where you know, one of those in regards to, you know, this transformation and co-creation process is that transformation is only painful if you hold on to your old illusions or perspectives. Yeah, so that's then when the resistance, you know, takes over. And this was also in quite a few of you guys, this constant looping and regurgitating. And there's another quote here in the daily empowerment. I pick up on this several times, that there's a long way and there's a short way. And guess what the long way is? Anybody an idea what the long way is? You can apply this to anything: responsibility, I don't know, co-creation, manifestation. What's the long way? How do we mature? How do we grow the long way. Anybody? What do you think is the order, the mechanism that makes us grow?
I think it's when things get
Unconscious
too painful where we're at. That's sort of the long way, when we keep repeating things until it just gets too painful to be where we're at, rather than making seeing it happening and making a conscious choice to
Yeah,
shift.
so in order to make a conscious choice, of course, we first have to make the unconscious conscious.
Yeah.
So that needs to happen first. And then the next level to that is that we need to understand that, you know, for as long as we are allowing things to just unconsciously happen, yeah, our perspective in life is that life just happens to us. Life just happens to us. Is that a responsible place in life? Does this make us feel that we can take charge, that we can do anything about it, that we can move forward? No. It typically comes with the subjective experience of stuckness. And you're right, Julian. We become willing to end the stuckness. Yeah, finally, like, I've had it. No more, when the pain of staying where we're at becomes greater than the fear of stepping into the unknown. And that process, that order, that universal order, yeah, that takes over when we are unconscious, when we're not consciously manifesting, is called karma. Okay. The long way is repetition. Repeat, repeat, loop, loop, repeat, loop, repeat, until you can't take it anymore. That's the long way. So seen from that perspective, what do you think is the short way then? I mean, if karma is a higher order, okay, that ensures, yeah, it's like an insurance policy, that we do grow at least a little bit in our lifetime. Yeah. What would be the more conscious version of that?
It's to feel what we're feeling and face what we're feeling in the moment and deal with it right here and now. So it's like that was the feeling of being conscious and actually speaking the truth and feeling what we're feeling and standing up for that part in us in the now.
And also protecting that, right? So sometimes that requires us to have boundaries.
If somebody infringes, or we can feel that infringing in on us, it's like, well, we love ourselves that enough. We respect and love our light, our own light.
Because for us to be able to live in truth with ourselves, we need freedom. Okay, this cannot happen if, you know, we have this constant sort of bombardment, or if we allow those kind of things in our life that restrict us too much. Yeah, for example, relationships where, you know, it becomes aware to us that we cannot grow either within the relationship or with the relationship. Yeah, those are things that are ultimately restricting to us. So what is a karmic relationship? Well, a karmic relationship is a relationship where we allow that to happen, where we allow this restriction to happen. And then, you know, that sort of karma, yeah, needs to play out in that relationship. The same with money, the same with work, the same with, you know, family and so forth. Obviously, there's different layers of karma. Yeah, there's the you know, the just very specific, individuated karma, then there's the sort of the family karma, then there's the relationship karma, then there's the sort of, the neighbors, the neighborhood karma, then there is the sort of like national karma or tribal karma that we all have, then there's the collective karma, and then there's even a greater karma, that spans over, like almost eternity, if you will, namely the even higher order of where things need to go. And even science knows that power, that even greater power, which creates sort of the driving force, is expansion. And in expansion, which is symbolized through growth, through evolution, through enlarging, there is also a focal point. So this is the interesting part here. This is part of the, the science in the last 20 years. So 20 years or 30 years ago, when I was in college, it was all about, the universe is expanding. This is different now. We know that the universe actually has a focal point. So for those of you who are interested in that, the scientific perspective, entropy is where everything sort of diverges apart from another and expands. And this is happening. If you look at it from, like, say, you stand still and, over, thousands, millions of years, things will move farther away from you because the whole universe is expanding. But at the same time, and this is where this Taurus symbology comes in, you've seen this all, this zero field, at the same time, it's also being pulled back into the center, and that is what we call syntropy. So syntropy, from a scientific point of view, is where everything sort of gears toward a specific, state, and that state, if you will, could be seen by those who are looking for like some kind of unified equation, or could be seen as the intelligence, the God, divine, that has brought all that into existence, source, if you will. All right, so there is an expansion, and the freedom that we all have to do our own rendering, to develop our own ways, our own kung fu, if you will, our own version of life. Okay, but there is an over or superseding goal, and that has to do with what I typically call, when I use this in spiritual texts and so forth, as our higher expression. So the overall drive is to grow, to come into our higher self, into the highest possible that we as conscious spirit beings can be. There's even a possibility, if your religious understanding isn't in the way. This is not controversial, but to say that we are fundamentally all gods in training. Okay, so we have this higher consciousness, this divine consciousness flowing through us, and really all we need to do is to allow ourselves to getting pulled into that higher version, that higher expression of us, which will automatically lead back to our divine nature. And what I've just described here in a very simplistic way is what we call retrocausality. It means that it appears to us that we make choices and that they cause things, and that we need to take responsibility for them. And there's also a misconception about karma in that regards, because we think that karma is kind of like Judgment Day or something like that. That's a misunderstanding of karma. Karma is a mechanism, that ensures that these things all stay in balance. But the even bigger, the superseding power is, that we are getting pulled into our higher expression. So even if you don't do anything, if you choose to be the most unconscious person, that you're gonna get there. It's just gonna take, I don't know, like a 1,000 lifetimes longer than for someone who chooses to allow that and to consciously step into that. Yeah, and to seek that inner guidance and to connect with that source power, yeah, that I just described from within, and learns to fade out all the intermediaries, all the stuff, all the layers, yeah, that often end up being those walls around our heart that block us from actually accessing this. So there's something here in the daily empowerment that I said is very important. I think it was in day 20. As soon as you can feel your heart, you can begin to connect with that essence, that source power in you.
And that's what the beginning felt like, Jona. It was so wide at the beginning. It was so beautiful. There didn't feel like there was, somebody did mention it, that there felt like there's no beginning and no end. It was felt so expanded.
Yeah, Mandy texted here. Yeah, she felt it. She picked up on it.
Yeah, and when we felt into this, it's sort of like everything dropped away. That's what it felt like. It felt like everything dropped off us. And even how we
for a moment, yes,
yeah, for a moment,
yes,
it came forward, like even what we felt responsible for, all our choices in the past, even that dropped away. It's like, I'm done with it. It was almost a moment of like, all the past. It's because we've sort of done it over and over again, and it's that same old feeling, that just getting caught in that looping that came forward a bit further on. That
yes,
feeling,
and it started to happen again. Yes.
Yeah.
When the ego then starts to question things and to doubt things, and this is why I would like to see this whole session here on this significant solstice day as a reminder, to tune into a true identity, like what we truly are.
That's where purpose felt like it came from. It was almost like once we can let go of all the past, we had that connection. That's where the hope came in for me. And I know you mentioned it, but it was a real feeling of like, oh, here I am connected in my heart center. All the past is behind, like everything that preoccupied us. And then feeling into my heart, I could feel quest. That's when the purpose comes forward, when we're in that connection. That's what
even though it was just for a few minutes, but just the fact that we can feel that way, that we have a reference feeling for what that could feel like, is already significant, because that can give us hope. Yeah, there is a state in us in which we are not burdened with these things. And don't get me wrong here, this has nothing to do with checking out from 3D and fantasizing or seeking alternative worlds or doing astral travel or anything like that. No. Self-healing happens on a level that is much more, I want to say, common sense. It is much more, it's less fantastical, all right? It's something that everybody can feel, and it's something that we can feel when we learn how to do this. This is a reason I'm in my 12th year now with these free Connect with Your True Self session. And sessions, and I do this over and over and over again, because we can't even remind ourselves often enough, and sometimes it takes 10 years for us to get a really good reference feeling. Well, today, there was the presence of our true self in this session. It was only for a few moments, and it could help us to basically see that there is this state in us. It's like a light. It's like this light that you see at the end of the tunnel when everything is dark around you. And where do you go? Where do you go when you go through a dark tunnel and all you can see is a little bit of sunlight over there? You follow the light. So there's obviously lots of other aspects, that come forward when we actually tune into this. So it's not just this spiritual talk here. This is hands-on stuff, and there were some hands-on things that came forward for some of you during the session. And that's then obviously, part of either your own sort of self-guided self-healing process, or something that I do, offer my help with, to work with you as an energy coach and help you to decode this. I brought a few slides here today for you to tune into things that may help you to look at things a little differently. So we use the energy centers, the chakras, which are fundamentally the organs for our spiritual visioning or spiritual perception, as sort of as the roadmap. Okay, and many of you are connected with this. You already have a bit of an understanding. You may get pulled a little bit into the specialness of this and how it's called. Basically, it's irrelevant. Yeah, we're dealing with a certain hierarchy of these energy centers, these energy organs in us. And really the way it can serve us to connect with our chakras is not through all the woo-woo exercises and everything, but is through the physical locations. There are 7 chakras that are linked to our physical body, and then there is chakras, we call them chakra fields. They're outside of our body. They're a little harder to connect with, but to go with here the fundamental sort of 7 physical chakras is quite familiar to most of you. This can help you as a roadmap, because when you do an energy session, when you meditate, when you have some kind of inner sensation, okay, it always helps. It's the first thing that I teach people in eryCourse and all the other programs, Heart Warrior and so forth, is to tune into the area of your body where that occurs. Yeah, what's the general area? You see here the root chakra. Yeah, yes, it's located sort of at the end of our spine, the tailbone, but it encompasses our legs. Yeah, so there is something around our mobility, yeah, and our knees and so forth, and the ability to move forward. That is clearly linked to our roots and also to some karmic aspects, yeah, inner child karmic family aspects a lot of times, but also the fundamental survival. Yeah. Then we have the sacral chakra, which is the one that processes our emotions in an energetic way. And then we have the solar plexus area here, the 3rd chakra, which is the one that processes sort of how we see ourselves as our identity. And some call it's the power center of us. Is correct, but it is a lower power in us. Yeah, it is the power in us that tries to project something outward and perhaps overpower or convince others. Then our heart chakra, that's linked to our arms as well, is the part that interacts with others. And here you can find the higher aspects, the higher expressions of connection, no longer just sort of on this sort of sacral level, which is more like the physical, sexual, sensational connection with others. On the heart chakra, we learn to connect with other people through sharing, through like mutual exchange. That's why our hands and our arms and our shoulders play a very big role in our ability to develop deeper friendships, deeper relationships. It's the giving and receiving of this interaction with other people. The heart chakra was very active during the session, so the majority of the energy work that we performed was around your heart chakra. And that has to do obviously with some of the collective things that we all are a little restricted and disconnected from our heart chakra. I don't want to go deeper into this. You can watch the not million, but hundreds of videos and articles that describe that collective situation where we're basically all dealing with this barrier between our 3rd and 4th chakra. Yeah, so power versus true self, or ego versus true self. Yeah, this was very promising actually at the beginning of the session, because you guys' heart chakras were really, really willing. And I made a few remarks in the beginning of the session that this is unusual for a true self session. So there is, this new beginning energy in you already. Then the 5th chakra, which is the one here, the throat, also the thyroid, and your jaw, and to a degree also your nasal cavities. They're linked to your expressions. They're linked to how you communicate yourself, the words you use, the demeanors, the attitudes and the sentiments that you express, including your entire body language. The fifth chakra was very active as well. The fifth chakra is the one that allows us to feel truth and to discern truth. And as a consequence, then, if we, willing to step into this responsibility, what Julianne said, to make a stance for that, to actually say, well, this is who I am, and this is, my truth. The sixth chakra, the third eye, which is more like here in this region, obviously there's an actual third eye, but it also encompasses your ears. It also encompasses, your whole entire brow, eyes, and the upper part of your nasal cavities, and always also in the back, guys. Never forget that. That's responsible for your vision, for the clarity that you have about truth. Yeah, so what can you see here? What is your perception? And then the crown chakra, which is linked here to the highest spot on your head. It encompasses your scalp, your skull, obviously, also your skin and your nervous system. So this is a little more intrinsic than just the actual physical location. It's linked to other organs, to physical organs in you, but that's basically the one that connects you with the higher perspective, with the bigger picture, with seeing the bigger cycles, for example, which is what we typically discuss here. And the reason why I wanted to show this to you is not so much, about understanding what the different chakras do and so forth. You can do the energy course with me. You can also request free chakra charts. I've been sending them out for 15 years, so send me an email, and you can have these chakra charts, or sign up for the Sacred Self-Healing program, because there it's part of the training in those steps. Here, what I really wanted to show you is the aspects that it's linked to. And this, may help some of you to connect with your chakras a little more. Yeah, what is the meaning of that? What is actually expressed, when something is bugging you, around your third and your fourth chakra. And if you look at, those core questions that come up with those energy centers, you'll see what the actual task is. Now, Janet, or anybody who had some encounters with their inner child, or still has things that, are unresolved, you can also see here on the left the developmental stages that these chakras and their development and their general balance is linked to. Yeah, for the majority of you guys here in this session, it was about these fundamental questions here. How do I want it? My future, my life. What am I attracted to? In other words, what's my true heart's desire? Yeah, what is true to me? And how do I express it? How do I think about it? So from my perspective as an energy healer, I can't even imagine a better time to have all these things come up, which paints a rather positive picture for me, because if you can tune into those questions and meditate on those, contemplate about those questions, then you are full on target. You are fully aligned to the bigger cycle that is going on right now, and that is to tune into your vision of the future. That is what we all are naturally being pulled into right now. Yeah, looking at another chapter in our life for the next 20 years. And there are several time capsules. I've explained that in other videos that are being concluded right now. Several ones. One from 1991. Actually, there's one from 1963. Then there's the biggest one for most of us, the one from 2003 and 2011. Those are the processes that we are actively concluding and letting go right now. So anything that happened for you in these time frames, in these time periods, 2003, 2011. I explained this in, I don't remember where, yeah, just go to my YouTube channel just recently. Oh, in the forecast for December. And that is something that you can use as a navigation help. Go back to what started 2003, what unfolded 2011, And how does this play into these larger cycles with right now? What is it that finally needs to let go of? Yeah. And what is it that really wants to come to an expression? And that is then sort of basically the next task, the next step. So for most of you, the next step is not fully visible yet, but your 6 chakras were actually quite open compared to most true self sessions. Now, when we do these ongoing sessions that people can sign up for whenever they want to, there are more specific subjects, and it's a little easier to tune into this. But the true self is basically as broad as it can be. Yeah, and you know, your vision is already there. You're very receptive, very willing. So many of you may actually receive some really cool inner guidance. But the first steps, yeah, like, or where to start, that may be something that you're still struggling with. So in the forecast for January and the rest of 23, I'm going to give you more specific dates, but till the first 2 weeks of January, you're still going to feel a little sort of wobbly about what the next step needs to be, and what the strategy is that you choose to, you know, move into a higher expression of yourself, more authenticity, really going for your true heart's desire, and finally letting go of these collective shackles, you know, these karmic collective shackles. And by the way, if there's anyone here who would like to go really deep with this, next week we have the Grace Soul Integrity. This is the highest vibratory energy modality that I offer, with the presence of this Grace Integrity frequency as a marathon. So 72 hours straight, okay, for over the course of 3 days, 9 sessions. Yeah, for anyone who really wants to use this time and really dive and connect with their spiritual self, that's a very, very cool, maybe a little intense if you've never done energy work before. If you've never done any spiritual work before, then I would recommend the Sacred Self Healing program that guides you through the process, this initiation process, you know, step by step. Or, yeah, I don't know if some of you have discovered this, the daily empowerment is the actual spiritual initiation process. It is all the different layers and the different mini steps that we have to step through. So you can also do this and fast forward, yeah, 5 minutes at a time, by going back to the first, you know, daily empowerment. And there you will see that no matter how you go the process, no matter how long you stay with one thing, there is basically sort of a continual forward movement. But sometimes we just need to hear this over and over again so that we can really connect with our inner light. And the moment you connect with your inner light, that's when you can feel your heart. That's where you can feel your own true self and the true self of others. And that's when you no longer need to have problems with wanting or taking responsibility for other people's feelings or lives, because it will be as clear as day for you that every true self out there, everyone who steps into their journey consciously, who identifies their I am essence in them and calls themselves a true self, has already stepped into this self responsibility. "20 years. Yeah, so that's sort of my reflection here on this true self process that we all went through. If there are any questions, or if you would like to get a little bit of feedback on your own energy, then we have 5 minutes left, yeah, to ask about things or to share or to comment.
I'd like to say thank you.
Yes, that's always very powerful, Linda. Yeah, because gratitude and appreciation are some of these expressions of our higher self. So thank you for that. That's a higher form of sharing.
Hi, Jona.
Hi.
I had a really interesting session actually. I think what I was letting go of was probably ideas about myself, and
Okay.
that, you know, of holding myself back, and of, you know, sort of being afraid of my own power. I think that's what I was feeling. I was feeling actually like really full of energy, full of joy, like just really, yeah, really, really happy. It was great actually.
Actually, I'm happy. I'm glad that you're saying this because, you know, I know that this wasn't the case for everybody, but I do know that it was like that for some of you. This lightness that you tuned in, that we tried to describe earlier. You know, there was a sudden sort of lightness of well, you know, that comes with when you actually allow yourself to let your light shine. And I don't want this to sound too cheesy, okay, but that is actually the case, that when you allow yourself to just be you without these preoccupations, things become lighter. Most of our resistances are linked into or linked with our ego, and the ego is the part that forms the, you know, the narrative about who we are. And it's not all bad, it's not all wrong, okay, but it can create barriers for us where we, like you said, where we perhaps where we may not allow ourselves, you know, to try something or to do something or to grow beyond something. Do you have an inkling, Jackie, as to what that may have been? Or
Well, I think it's just it's something I've been doing the last week or two, which is I've been working on something that is very much, you know, close to where I should be and my own passions, and very much was just being myself during the whole thing, and I suppose it was really appreciated, and it's amazing to be received so positively, just being yourself, you know. And it was an absolutely fantastic experience. So
something interesting can happen when that occurs. Basically, what I hear you say is that you felt like you finally got validated.
yeah,
In
yeah,
yeah, and also like encouraged, you know, in that's the right path. And you know, I can laugh about this because, you know, I do this for a living. Obviously, I talk to people about these kind of things every day. Watch your own ego pulling the old shit back in. Yeah, like, oh, you know, like you've already gone over the hump. You've already went past, you know, whatever, you know, may have appeared as a limitation, you know, in the old days. And you realize, you know, how you're, because you said something about the way you see yourself, or the, you know, like these preoccupied ideas, how they keep coming back in, how they sort of subconsciously pull you back out of that. And this is why that's why I said appreciation, because if you really tune into this and you say like, this is the meaning that I give this experience, yeah, I feel supported. I see those signs that indicate to me that that is the right direction. To not go back to questioning, to not go back to like rehashing, yeah, the same sort of, you know, doubts and so forth about what you're doing or where you need to go. To
and
use this as reinforcement. Mm-hmm.
yeah, for sure. And I think what was different as well is that I wasn't looking for validation. I wasn't looking for,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but I was just really enjoying what I was doing, and it just sort of came naturally then, and that's actually what was so that's what was so validating. It was, you know,
It
was
did
great.
not come from your third chakra. It did not come from this place where you want to convince others that you're good or that you can perform. That's all the performance and the wanting, having, owning, getting. All right. No, when it comes from your heart, and this is really what it means. The English language has a word for this. It comes from your heart. It is like an offering. It is, there's no, you don't need anything back for it. Okay. And that's kind of like the place that we want to be with ourselves. This is then what we call a true self state, because in that state you don't need an external confirmation, validation, or even external love or something, you know, that, or permission. For a lot of people, it's even like giving yourself the permission to be you. Yeah. This is a very, very positive message that you're sending to all of us here, Jackie, because as a closing remark, and this is something that I said in the forecast for December already, that when we make the effort to tune into this place with ourselves, yeah, and learn to trust in it, and it's a bit by bit process. It doesn't happen overnight, guys. What we can experience is an immediate support, and that is the quality of the time ahead here. We are looking at an extremely prosperous time if we are connecting with truth within ourselves, because we immediately get supported. We immediately feel this backwind. So the part in us that can be conflicted about this is our ego, because our ego often has a different idea, yeah, or knows better. And then, you know, we end up, you know, sort of in this cycle of projecting and absorbing energies. And that is what, you know, basically keeps us stuck. So this is something that we need to educate ourselves with, you know, when do I project? What is projection? And what does this even mean? So the fact, Jackie, that you could differentiate this, yeah, that you weren't even looking for validation, yeah, that you were just sort of trying to be the best you can be.
Yeah.
The best Jackie you can be.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That is sort of, that's like up there, you know. It's no better feeling than that. Yeah. And it obviously, yes, the reception, how it's been received, you know, is a feedback for us. But when we are fully aligned with our truth and our true self, then we don't even need that. We can trust that whatever it is that we feel as inner prompting to follow, that it will pull us into our higher expression. We may not fully know what that looks like. We may not fully know what the steps are. All we need to do is to trust in this inner connection that we have. And in that moment, life becomes easier. It does. Wonderful. Thank you all so much for sharing, yeah, and for commenting and for coming and for watching this video. Yeah, if you want more videos, go to my YouTube channel. If you want more articles or something, go to my website. If you want to see what kind of programs or services I offer, also go to my website or send me an email, Jona@transcodes.com. I'm wishing you guys a wonderful rest of this solstice. Do a vision board. It's the time right now. Yeah, and remember, the vision board that I'm talking about is not your success and hopes and dreams vision board, but the vision board that represents your true self. So step into your true self by, you know, using imagery and using, you know, pictures that represent how you feel within yourself and how you want to feel with others. Now, that's a beautiful little project that you can do here for these sacred days. Yeah, and follow the daily empowerment, because that's something that keeps you on that track. All right. Thank you, everyone. Wishing you a happy rest of 2022. And we will meet each other again for the free True Self transmission in January, unless you join any of my programs. Last remark, we only have this once or twice a year. This is a program that we call Love Integrity, which illuminates those aspects, those deeper spiritual and energetic aspects in conjunction with relationship. So Love Integrity is a 3-month course that Jeff and I do together, masculine and feminine energies together, where we teach people how to apply this and how to practice, these basically higher vibratory goals and the higher consciousness in our practical everyday relationships, also our romantic relationships. Yeah, so this starts January 7th, maybe a nice Christmas gift for yourself. It's very beautiful work, and yeah, very surprising and eye-opening when you look at relationships from an energetic perspective. Very, very new things that you can discover there. All right, everyone. See you soon.